Today we're going to be taking a look at the bones and joints that make up your elbow, wrist and hand. Hi everyone, my name is Celeste. Welcome and thank you so much for being here. Continuing with our series from head to toes, this month is going to be all about elbows, wrists and hands. On this video, we are going to be exploring the bones, joints and movements of your elbows, wrists, hands and fingers. And we are going to start at the elbow joint. So there's 3 bones that make up the elbow joint, and these are your humerus, so your upper arm bone, the radius that runs along the outside of the arm, so the side of the thumb, and then the ulnar that runs along the inside of the arm, so the side of your pinky finger. Now, if we continue towards the wrists, on the wrist, the first bones, there's a bunch of bones, actually there are 8, and they're called the carpal bones. Now, these bones form kind of like 2 lines, a line that is closer to the wrist and a line that is closer to the fingers, and the names of the bones are as follow. So the line that is closer to your wrist, the names of those 4 bones are scaphoid, lunate, pisiform, and triquetrum. Now the other 4, the ones that are closer to the fingers, are your trapezium, trapezoid, capitate, and hamate. Now if we continue towards the fingers at the height of the palm, we can actually touch them at the back of the palm is easier to trace these bones. You can really feel them. These are called the metacarpal bones. And then last but not least, the bones that make up your fingers are called phalanges. Phalanges! So in total, in our hand and wrists and fingers, we've got 27 bones. So there are 8 carpal bones, 5 metacarpal bones, and 14 phalanges. Phalanges! Alright, so enough with the bones. Now let's take a look at the joints that make up your elbows, wrists, and fingers. So first we're going to be discussing the elbow. We're going to start at the elbow joint. And this structure has 3 joints. Okay, so we said that the bones that make up the elbow are the humerus, the upper arm bone, the ulnar bone, and the radius. So the first joint is going to be the ulno-humeral joint. So basically the junction of your ulnar bone and your humerus. Then the second joint is going to be the radiohumeral. So the junction of your radius with your humerus. And the third and last joint is your proximal meaning closer to your axial skeleton, and you will see why this little word is there, radio-ulnar joint. Alright, now let's take a look at the joints at your wrist. Okay, so now if we continue down towards the wrist, remember we said that the first bones that are going to be right after the ulnar and the radius are the carpal bones. So the first joint is going to be the radiocarpal joint. The second one is going to be the ulnocarpal joint. Then we've got the joints in between the carpals, so intercarpal joints. And we've also got the distal, so distal meaning further away from your axial skeleton, radio-ulnar joint. Remember that I said that at the elbow joint, we've got the proximal radio-ulnar because it's closer to the axial skeleton. And at the wrist, we've got the distal radio-ulnar joint. Then if we continue up towards the finger, we've got the metacarpal bones that meet the phalanges, and this is called the metacarpophalangeal joints. Now at the phalanges, or at the fingers, we've got the interphalangeal joints. So basically the joints in between each phalange. Alright, so let's take a look at what kind of movements your elbow, wrist and fingers can do. Okay, so if you see the anatomical position of the body, you will find a person with the arms beside them and the palms facing forward. And this is the starting point that we usually have to take when it comes to learning the movements of the joints. So if we start at the elbow can flex and extend, but the elbow can also pronate and supinate. Now, the shape of the radius bone, the head of the radius bone at the height of the elbow, is kind of like a rounded head. I will show a picture, perhaps a video here, because that shape allows that bone to, when we pronate, if we touch it, actually we can trace it with our own hand. So try to find your radius, place your elbow, flex your elbow, and then flip, moving around, then flip your palm down. So this is called pronation, and you will see that the radius kind of crosses across the forearm. So if you place your hand at your wrist, and then you can see that your radius is in kind of like a straight line from the elbow to the thumb. But then if you pronate, if you trace the bone, it goes kind of like across the forearm. Now it's super cool to note how the shape of the bones allow for different movements at the joints. All right, now let's take a look at the movements that we can do with our wrists. So first we've got flexion, extension. If we take the anatomical way, we've got abduction and adduction. And pronation and supination also happens at the height of the wrist, because remember that the bones on the forearm also connect to your wrist. So we can also pronate and supinate at the height of a wrist. It will kind of happen in both the wrist and the elbow at the same time. Then fingers. At the fingers, we've got flexion, also the thumb. We've got extension, also the thumb. Then we've got abduction, like spreading the fingers outwards towards the sides, abduction. And then adduction, getting the fingers close to each other. And then at the thumb, we also have one more movement, that is that your thumb can do opposition. So basically bringing the thumb close to your pinky. Now the opposition movement of your thumb is super cool and a big characteristic of humans, and this is why we can handle some tools and we can do certain movements with our hands, like gripping. So opposition of the thumb is a super cool and important movement as well. Okay, so as always, remember that these movements, we isolate them, we separate each movement at the height of the elbow, at the height of the wrist, but the human body can do something super amazing, that is combine all these movements. And even though I do encourage you to train individually the possibilities of each tiny joint or big joint of your whole body, I also encourage even more so to combine movements, because then we create better mapping on the brain and we can move even more. And every time we move, whatever movement we try to achieve, the brain is gonna be like, that's okay, I know this combination already. So we are gonna reduce the possibilities of injury and we are gonna be able to move way, way better and smoother. Alright, that was all for today. I hope you have enjoyed this little anatomy video. Next week I'm gonna be posting another one, but I would love to know in the comments if you have any doubts or any questions about elbows, wrists, fingers and hands. And if you found any value on this video and you think anyone might benefit from it, please feel free to share the love, subscribe to my channel for more weekly content, and I will see you on the mat very soon. Bye bye.